وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم.
أحسنتم. Very good, Sabrina. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الأطيبين الأنجبين. بهم نتولى ومن أعدائهم نتبرأ إلى الله. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك توغى وتمتعه فيها طويلا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. This dua that she recited, it's called Ziyaratul Ahd, Dua Ahd. And we have quite a few Dua Ahd. Ahd means allegiance, a pledge of allegiance or a covenant, an agreement that we have. And generally all these Dua al-Ahd, they are with Imam Mahdi alayhi salatu wassalam. Sallallahu Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Now she recited the dua beautifully, and towards the end of it, that sentence was Allahumma hadhihi bay'atun lahu fi unuqi ila yawm al-qiyamah. And then the adab taught to us by our Imam is that you hit your two hands together like that. Allahumma hadhihi bay'atun lahu fi unuqi ila yawm al-qiyamah. Assuming that this is the hand of the Imam alayhi salam, and this right hand is yours, and then you hit your right hand like that. Allahumma hadhihi bay'atun, that God, this is an allegiance, a bay'at that I have on my neck, fi unuqi ila yawm al-qiyamah, until the day of judgment. So bay'at means you are now in that dua. She said, Allahumma inni ujaddidu. Ujaddidu means I renew. I'm renewing an agreement. So where was this agreement that I'm renewing? Now this dua, it is mustahab, you recite every day after your Fajr prayers. Dua Ahd or Ziyaratul Ahd. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam says that someone who recites this ziyarat for 40 days, and then if he dies, an Imam returns after his death, because of his wish that he had, that he wanted to serve the Imam alayhi salam, he will be brought back to life to serve the Imam alayhi salam. So it's a small dua, beautiful impact, beautiful asar, and also the way how you send salawat on the Imam in this dua, it's amazing. You start with Allahumma balligh Mawlaya Sahib al-Zaman Salawatullahi alayhi an Jamii al-Mu'minina wal-Mu'minat. I am sending a salam on the Imam, not only a salam from me, an Jamii al-Mu'minina wal-Mu'minat, on behalf of all the believing men and the women. An walidayya wa wuldi, from my parents, from my children. Now children also descendants all the way until the end. Parents also all my aba and ajdad, whoever they were. Walidayya wa wuldi wa anni minas salati wa tahiyyati zinata arshillah. So I'm sending a salam to the Imam. Here the adab taught to us is that you say not an ordinary salam, because when I greet you I say salamun alaikum, it's just one salam from me, which is a dua for you. But then when you say zinata arshillah, means the weight of this salam that I'm sending to the Imam, it has to be the weight of the kingdom of Allah, of the arsh of Allah, the rule of Allah. Zinata arshillah wa midada kalimatih, kalimat of Allah, the words of Allah. Whatever you see in this dunya, they are all the signs of Allah, word of Allah. How many are there? Indefinite, countless. We don't know. And they are numerous. And there is no end to it. Says that kalimateh, that is the count of this salat, be the weight of the arsh of Allah, the measure of that, be the count of the kalimat of Allah, wa zinat arshillah wa midada kalimateh. So it's a beautiful dua. Make it a habit that you recite this dua every day in the morning. It has a beautiful effect, beautiful impact, and the asar of that also it's seen in our own lives. Now, in this dua we said that God ujaddidu, that is, I'm renewing an agreement. Now, if I have an agreement, for example, we've leased this place. The lease starts in a month, and they say after a year you have to renew it. So I renew it after a year, but then there was an agreement that was signed that was 1 year before. But in this dua we say Allahumma inni ujaddidu, that God, I am renewing this agreement with Imam Mahdi alayhi salam. So I have signed that agreement somewhere, that I am renewing it every day. Where did I sign that agreement? Before stepping into this dunya. That is, when we were created in the form of dharrat, that is particles, small particles, and in the alam zar, that is before we stepped into this dunya, Allah had a test, a proposal of wilayat, and He said, Alastu bi rabbikum, am I not your Lord? So there were people who accepted. Those who accepted are the Shias today in this world. Those who denied are those kuffar and mushrikeen and munafiqeen, and those who did not accept the wilayat of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. So when we say wilayat of Allah, wilayat of Rasulullah is there. Wilayat of Amirul Mu'mineen is also, it's all one package, it's all inclusive. So someone who removes the wilayat of Amirul Mu'mineen has removed the wilayat of Rasulullah, is out of the wilayat of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. So we've signed an agreement, a contract with Allah before we stepped into this world, and that is why we say inni ujaddidu, that God, every morning after my Fajr prayers, I am renewing this agreement with our Imam, our Master, Imam Mahdi alayhi salatu wassalam. So that is a beautiful dua, and have it in your daily program. Even if you forget it, recite it anywhere during the day, but do it. It's nice to have these small attachments in our life, and the more we have, the more impact of that also is there, and that returns to us, and that is a bond that we have with the Imam alayhi salam on a daily basis. And because he is the Imam of age and the Imam of our time, we have to have such an agreement and a renewal and a bond with him on a daily basis, and that is one. The topic that we have for tonight, it is belief in the day of judgment, the day of Qiyamah. Among the usul al-Din that we have Tawheed, Adl, Nabuwwat, Imamat and Qiyamah. So this belief in the day of judgment, all of the prophets that had come, all 124,000, they invited us towards Akhirah. Two things are there. One is invitation towards Akhirah, so that we live in this dunya rightfully, with equity, with justice. So that justice also is the same justice for which Imam al-Asr will return and will rise. That is the same justice that Rasulullah, he worked for. All his guidance, his preaching, his teaching was for that justice. And that is, we are heading towards Akhirah. And that Akhirah, it's going to be either in the hell or in the heaven. And if it's rewarding, it's heaven. If it's punishable, God forbid, it's going to be in the hell. That is the simple definition of the belief in the day of judgment that we have. And it's in all the religions, it's the same. Now then, identifying and finding the true path and the right path, that is investigating is upon every one of us, that we know what is the right path, what is the true path, who is the right messenger, and how we define the existence of Allah. And if Allah is defined, is He defined in a material form, in any form that He exists that I can see, or etc. All that is there. And the second one, it's the belief in justice, adl. Adl that we believe in, that is also another reflection of the Day of Judgment. That is, if I am adil in this dunya, if that justice is observed in this world, then justice must be observed in the akhirah. That is, it's as simple as that. All of the prophets, they came with the same aim, that equity and justice, it has to be installed, and remembering the Day of Judgment. Most of the ayat that we have in Quran that talk about the aqaid, usul ad-din, they talk about belief in the Day of Judgment. So many surahs are there, all of them, they are on the Day of Judgment. Now, for example, for us to remember the Day of Judgment, Allah describes the Day of Judgment in different qualities. For example, says وَأَنذِرْهُمْ يَوْمَ الْأَزِفَةِ. Azifa. Yawm al-Azifa means the day that has come so close. It's a day which is very near. Or there's another surah which says اقتربت الناس وانشق القمر. Surah Al-Qamar, the first ayah. There says اقترب. Iqtaraba means the day of judgment is very near. It's very close to us. Now, we believe, first of all, Imam has to come. After the arrival of the Imam, his hukumat will be there. After the Imam, we have an era of Raj'at, where so many Imams and Prophets will return and rule, which is وَتُمَتَّعَهُ فِيهَا طَوِيلًا. That is, for a long time, this Raj'at will be there. And after Raj'at, that is when this land was filled with every goodness, every wisdom, every quality, every perfection was seen on this planet Earth. After all this horror that we are going through, all this negativity, it will be the Day of Judgment. So when we look into this, it's going to be a long time. Now, because one of the riwayat says that after the shahadat of Imam Mahdi alayhi salam, Imam Hussein will come, and the rule of Imam Hussein will be 40,000 years. So 40,000 years after that, which other Imams will come, Rasulullah will come. So every one of them will rule, and after that will be the Day of Judgment. So we think it is far away, a long time from now. But Quran says it's very near. Azifa. It says Azifa means it's very near. Iqtaraba also says it is very near. So Quran talks about the Day of Judgment, which is a reality, a haqiqat. Now, one of the companions of Rasulullah is Zayd ibn Haris. Zayd ibn Haris is a young lad, 13 years old. Zayd, he is one of those companions of Rasulullah whose father is faithless, a kafir. Now, he loved Rasulullah and he embraced and becomes a Muslim. His father, Zayd's father, a wealthy, filthy rich man, he says, leave the Prophet or else I'll disown you. He says, I will not leave the Prophet. Zayd's father comes by the Kaaba, says, here I disown you. I disown you from this moment, you are not my son. Rasulullah comes by the Kaaba, says, from this moment Zayd is my son. So Rasulullah, he disowns, Rasulullah owns. Now this young lad, he is 13 years old only. One day he was in the masjid early in the morning. Rasulullah also is in the masjid. He comes and says, Rasulullah sees that his eyes, they are blood red, as if he hasn't slept for a long time. Rasulullah says, Zayd, what is it? I see you. Kayfa asbahta? How did you start your day? He says, Asbahtu muqina. I started my day with yaqeen. Says, yaqeen? What yaqeen and what are the signs of your yaqeen? He says that I see the hell and the heaven before me. I can see it. I can see the Day of Judgment. So I can see the hell and the heaven before me. Like, for example, there's a garden behind this window, and there's a little hole, I can see the garden. So I can see it, but there is a barrier also in between. So he has come to a point of yaqeen, of certainty. For him it doesn't matter whether he is dead or whether he is alive. He can see the reality, he can see the haqa'iq, and that is as a result of yaqeen and that iman that he has sought and arrived at. Then he says, Rasulullah says, do you have any wish? He says, yes, Ya Rasulullah, I want to get martyred and die as a shaheed. Rasulullah prays for him, and that day they participated in a battle. Zayd got martyred and got shaheed. So that is yaqeen. A person, he can get to that. Now for us, we have to arrive at that yaqeen. We have to work on it. We have to work on our aqaid, and there are different ways of that. One of them, it's this salats that we have by way of worship, by way of servitude, by way of taharat, by way of being in the state of taharat at all times, by the majalis of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. All of these are those places and where we get to this yaqeen. Another surah in Quran, it says that عَمَّ يَتَسَاءَلُونَ عَنِ النَّبَأِ الْعَظِيمِ. That is, this is Surah Al-Amma, the 30th surah, 30th juz, the first surah. Says, عَمَّ يَتَسَاءَلُونَ عَنِ النَّبَأِ الْعَظِيمِ. Of what do they inquire one another? What are they asking about? عَنِ النَّبَأِ الْعَظِيمِ. Naba means news. Naba'in Azim means a great news. What is that great news? It's the event of the day of judgment. Kalla sayalamun, thumma kalla sayalamun. Definitely they will come to know it. Kalla thumma kalla sawfa sayalamun. They shall soon know it. So, huwa, or elsewhere in Quran says, Qul huwa naba'un azim. That is, huwa naba'un azim. That is a good news. That is that great news. Antum anhu mu'ridun. That you are all denying it. Now, why do people deny the day of judgment, reject the day of judgment? They reject it for many reasons. If you get time, there is the Surah Al-Qiyamah. In Surah Al-Qiyamah, the Almighty, He talks about death, the process of death, how a person dies, and then why does he deny and reject the day of judgment? Says, بَلْ يُرِيدُ الْإِنسَانِ لِيَفْجُرَ أَمَامَهُ يَقُولُ أَيَّانَ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. Because he wants to commit sins, because he wants to do wrong, because he wants to live a life of his own wish and desire, have a free lifestyle. If he has this belief system in the day of judgment, then he cannot live that free life. So if he denies the day of judgment, then it becomes an easy pass before him. So he says, يَقُولُ بَلْ يُرِيدُ الْإِنسَانِ لِيَفْجُرَ أَمَامَ. Insan, he wants to commit sins before him in his life, denies the day of judgment, says Ayyana yawm al-qiyamah. Ayyana means when is the day of judgment. That is, he's denying and rejecting. So this Naba'in Azim, that is the day of judgment, and it is a haqiqat, it is a fact. Now those who deny also are of different categories. Now if you just to understand in simple words, this place has been adorned for a purpose, has been prepared for a purpose. Everything has been turned black, everything has been cleaned to host the majlis of Sayyid al-Shuhada. That was the purpose. Now if we make this place and then just leave some pets and animals in the place and leave the place, and they just mess around the whole thing, and then we come and clean the place, that purpose, it's going to be a waste purpose. We don't do that. So Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, He created this universe in the best form. He created everything. He availed everything for mankind. And now He says everything is for you. Now you have to work in it, and then you have to give a record and an account in the Akhirah. So that is belief in the Day of Judgment. If we say that He created everything and then He's just going to devastate everything, it doesn't make any sense. Then why did He create in the first place? If He has done something, He has done something unwise. And someone who is God cannot do anything that is unwise, because we believe He is Hakim. Inna Allah Hakim. Hakim means wise. Because He is just, He is Hakim. He will never do anything otherwise, and He will never do anything that is going to be a waste. So here there's a big program that Allah has created, and all of that, it's for me and for you. Allah, He wants human beings to arrive at a rank, achieve a rank where they become higher and better than the angels. Better than the angels. Because angels, they are a creation of Allah, and they are bound to do and to be what they are. They haven't got that free will that human beings have. Free will is in human beings, free will is in jinn. So angels, they don't have free will. Now when man, out of his performance, he arrives at a rank, he has come to that rank, although there are so many forces in him working against him, he has to fight those forces and come to this rank. Allah says now that he came to that rank with all those forces against him, he is better than the angels. And the hadith also says the same, that Anbiya, ulama ummati afdalu min Anbiya Bani Israel, ulama of my nation, they are afdal than the Anbiya sent to the Bani Israel. It's for this reason, that because they had the willpower, they could have done what they wanted, but they did not do. They went against those forces within themselves. So that is how a person, he can arrive to those high ranks. Then belief in the Day of Judgment. The horror of the Day of Judgment, it is such. First of all, he said it is very soon. He said it is very near. It is a long day. And then says that it is a very severe day, the Day of Judgment. For example, the ayah says, Ya ayyuhan nas, ittaqu rabbakum, inna zalzalata as-sa'ati shay'un adim. That is, O people, ittaqu rabbakum, be God wary. Be wary of your God. Why? Inna zalzalata as-sa'ati shay'un adim. Zalzala means earthquake, the shaking. Says the shaking of the hour of, that is Qiyamat. Shay'un azim, it is a great disaster. It's a great devastation. Continues, يوم ترون تذهل كل مرضعة عما رضعت وتضع كل ذات حمل حملها. Says the horror of the Day of Judgment is such that you would see a woman feeding her baby. Now for a woman feeding the baby, it's the height of affection and love that she has towards the baby. And that is the best moment she has, that she is caring for someone, feeding a baby. Says the horror of the day is such that the mother to whom the dearest is the baby, she will forget the baby. Or even women who are pregnant, carrying a baby, says the horror is such that they will drop their load. They will abort their baby. They will drop the fetus, because of that horror of the Day of Judgment is such. Then says, وَتَرَى النَّاسَ سُكَارَى. You would see people as if they are drunk. They are not drunk. Says that وَمَا هُمْ بِسُكَارَى. They are not sukara, they are not drunk. وَلَكِنَّ عَذَابَ اللَّهِ شَدِيدٌ. That is the azab of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, it is severe. Because of that horror of the Day of Judgment, they will drop the load, they will lose all that. Even we have in a hadith, the Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, he was blessed with a child at the age of 100. He was 100 years plus. Allah blessed him with Ismail. And then he says that God, Prophet Ibrahim, seeing the horror of the Day of Judgment, says, Rabbi nafsi nafsi, God have mercy on me first. Ana khaliluka Ibrahim, farhamni. Says that I am your friend Ibrahim, God have mercy on me first. That even Prophet Ibrahim, to whom Ismail is so dear, the horror is such severe that he will forget his own son. So that is the horror of the Day of Judgment. One of the other ayats that talks about this Day of Judgment says يَوْمَ تُبَدَّلُ الْأَرْضُ غَيْرَ الْأَرْضِ وَالسَّمَاوَاتِ وَبَرَزُوا لِلَّهِ الْوَاحِدِ الْقَهَّارِ. That is, you would see that this earth is there, skies are also there. But the horror of the Day of Judgment is such that this earth will not be the same earth. Allah will destroy it. The skies that we have, these skies also will not be the same skies, they will be destroyed. Another ayah, he says that يَوْمَ نَطْوِ السَّمَاء. Natwi means how we will unroll. يَوْمَ نَطْوِ السَّمَاء. You've seen this cabbage. کلم را که میبینید این کلم چند لایه است یا پیاز هم چند لایه است. این چند لایه است، این لایه هاش وقتی باز بکنید صاف میشه. خود مثالی که اینجا خدای متعال درباره روز قیامت میزنه میگه که قدیم وقتی میخواستن نامه بنویسن این نامه رو رولش میکردن بعد اینطوری بازش میکردن مثل این تومار. خدا میفرماد که این تومار را که اینجوری باز میکنید میخونید یوم نطوی السماء کطی السجل للکتب. ما این آسمان ها را همه را اینجوری در هم میپیچیم میبندیم، مثل کرکره هایی که میبندیم همه چیز بسته میشه. All these 7 skies that you have like a cabbage, they are rolled onto one another, and says like the opening of a scroll. In the olden days when they wanted to open the scroll, they used to stretch it like that and read it out, and once it was read it was unrolled and then rolled back. Says that all these 7 skies, no one knows how far, how many million miles, how many million billion miles they are from this point that we are until the end of that 7th sky. No one knows. It is ilmullah tabaraka wa ta'ala. He knows what is the distance between here and there. Says all of that will be shut down. Yawma natwi as-sama katayy as-sijil lil-kutub. That we will unroll and roll down everything just like the unrolling and shutting down of the scroll. Then says يَوْمَ نَطْوِ السَّمَاء كَطَيِّ السِّجِلِّ لِلْكُتُبِ كَمَا بَدَأْنَا أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ نُعِيدُهُ. Just like the first day. مثل همون روز اول که هیچی نبود ما آغاز کردیم، روز قیامت که میشه همه چیز بساطش بسته میشه، هیچی نمیمونه. If you recall your memories, I think in 1998 or 99, towards the millennium, there was a tsunami in the South Pole, towards Indonesia. In one tsunami, 160,000 people died instantly. There was this seas that just went into the town. The entire place was devastated. That day I was traveling. I was in Heathrow Airport, and then the flights were cancelled for 7 hours. They were just postponing after half an hour, 1 hour. And on Sky Channel, Sky News, this news reporter, he was a scientist from Australia. He came and he said that what it seems is there is a nuclear activity that has taken place in those oceans down below, as a result of which this tsunami it took place, and these many people, they were killed. Now the Sky News keeps on repeating that, and they repeated it for a few times, and I was there for 7 hours. I heard it so many times, and then that news was gone, and it changed into a natural disaster, and everyone recognizes that as a natural disaster, and the scientist also was never to be heard or seen again. So if these man-made disasters can cause such a havoc, and then they say since that day the GPS systems, the calculations of that, they all changed by a very micromillimeter, which has changed the distances globally on the planet Earth, and all the aviation also was disturbed by that tsunami caused. So if that tsunami that was if it was a man-made disaster, it can cause such a havoc, when we look into the ayat of Quran that talk about the horror of the day of judgment, says يَوْمَ تُبَدَّلُ الْأَرْضِ, that is, you will see that this earth, it will totally devastate, it will totally change. وَالسَّمَاوَاتِ وَبَرَزُوا لِلَّهِ الْوَاحِدِ الْقَهَّارِ. Now, for the day of judgment, ayats that we have, they say that the day of judgment, it is not going to be on this earth. روز قیامت رو این کره زمین نیست. یعنی خدای متعال یه جای دیگه را خلق خواهد کرد که آیات میفرماید که اونجا صافه، مثل این کره زمینی که گرد هست گرد نیست. It is a flat surface, a new land that Allah will create, and it's going to be flat, and then everyone present on that surface of that will be able to see one another, because it's flat, it's not round like what we are here now, oval. Says on that day of judgment, چون زمین صاف هست همه همدیگه را میبینن. کل خلائق از اول هستی تا اون روز قیامت هر کی را که خدا خلق کرده بود همه را اونجا جمع میکند. اونجاست که محاسبه میشه. یک روزه، برای یک روزی همچی خدا جایی را خدای متعال خلق میکند. بعد طول این روز هم 50,000 ساله. And the duration of that day of judgment is also 50,000 sana, as the ayah says that the day of that judgment, it is 50,000 sana. For mu'mineen, says it is not going to be 50,000 years. The amount of time you used to spend to offer your wajib prayers, 5 minutes, 7 minutes, whatever it was, duration of stay for you will be 7 minutes. این روز قیامت هم که گفته شد در آیات 50,000 سال طولش هست، برای مؤمنین اینطور نیست. امام میفرماید که برای مؤمنین همون مقدار وقتی که برای نماز اینا صرف میکردن، 5 دقیقه 7 دقیقه هر چقدر، همون مقدار هم. معنیش این نیست که ما تون نمازمون رو 2 دقیقه 1 دقیقه بخونیم که اونجا معطل نشیم. اینم نیست. نماز رو باید درست خوند. You have to say and offer your prayers correctly and take your time and don't rush just because we don't want to be held up over there for long. 7 minutes is a good time if we were held, we were to stand there. Now for the day of judgment, then says that وَإِذَا الْكَوَاكِبُ انْتَثَرَتْ. Beautiful, all of these ayat towards the end of Quran that talk about the day of judgment, it's so nice. And that you get that iman and yaqeen in the existence of God, that how beautiful He has created everything, and then how He's going to destroy everything. إِذِ الْكَوَاكِبُ انْتَثَرَتْ. That is, when you see that the stars, they disperse. إِذَا الشَّمْسُ كُوِّرَتْ. And then when the sun will be covered. Now when the sun is covered, you've got the eclipse, and then namaz ayat you offer. When the moon is covered, this again Salatul Ayat is wajib, because it's a natural disaster. Now this sun and this moon that we have, and then this namaz ayati که واجب میشه، یعنی یه حالتی است که به این آسمان، به این مهتاب و آفتاب به وجود میاد که خدا فرمود چون این ترس داره باید نمازم بخونید، نماز آیات. روز قیامت که میشه میفهمد که و جمع الشمس والقمر. جمعه مین جمع میشن، این مهتاب و خورشید دوتاشون جمع میشن. الان که میبینید یک طرف خورشید یک طرف ماه، هیچ وقت اینا کنار هم نمیان. خدا بین هر دو فاصله گذاشته. این فاصله باعث میشه که شب و روز به وجود بیاد، فصلهای مختلفی که در طول سال داریم اینا به وجود بیاد، سرما گرما، اینا همش به خاطر حرکت این دوتاست و فاصله‌ای که بین دوتاشون گذاشته شد. فاصله که برداشته بشه دیگه همه چیز تباه میشه، هیچی نمیمونه. روز قیامت the Almighty says جمع الشمس والقمر, that the sun and the moon, they will get together, they will unite. So coming together of the sun and the moon means it's a disaster. This day and night we will not have these different seasons, we will not have وَجُمِعَ الشَّمْسُ وَالْقَمَرِ. And then Or for example in Surah Al-Hajj, I think it is the first ayah, Ya ayyuhal ladhina, Ya ayyuhan nas, ittaqu rabbakum inna zalzalata as-sa'ati shay'un azim. That is the shaking of the Day of Judgment. It is a grievous and a severe thing. Now what do we do on the Day of Judgment? Mu'mineen, how will they be? Because it's a day of horror. Ayah says, La yahzunuhumul faza'ul akbar. Faza means that great grief. That یعنی اون روز فزع بزرگی که هست برای مؤمنین، برای تعدادی اذیت نخواهد کرد. لا یحزنهم، اینا در حزن و ناراحتی نخواهند بود. چه کسانی هستند؟ Who are these people? لا يحزنهم الفزع الأكبر وتتلقاهم الملائكة. And then says that the angels, they will meet them and they will say Salamun alaykum, greetings to you. Anyone who was with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, with Amirul Mu'mineen salamullahi alayhi, with the Imams alayhimus salam, La yahzanhum al-faza'ul akbar. That is, that faza'ul akbar will do them no harm. اینا مشکلی نخواهند داشت. کسانی که با پیغمبر بودن، با اهل بیت بودن، با ائمه اطهار بودن، نگرانی ندارن. حالا یه خود کم زیادی که در اعمالشون انجام شد، اگر ایمانمون بر این بود که ما کوتاهی کردیم، عمدن کاری نکردیم، اشتباه شد، خب به هر حال اشتباه از انسان میشه. اشتباه کردیم، خطا کردیم، نادمیم، پشیمانیم، خدا هم ارحم الراحمین هست. ولی اگر ما بیایم عناد داشته باشیم و بر علیه خدای متعال بیستیم، نافرمانی بکنیم intentionally، اونجا دیگه بخشش هم دیگه دست خداست و دیگه خودش اگر خواست نبخشه نمیبخشه. خدا میفرماید در آیات قرآن که تمام این گناهایی که ما از جهالت و نادانی و ندانستنی انجام میدیم همه را من میبخشم. نه فقط میبخشم، میفرماید که اینها را من تبدیلشون میکنم به حسنات. یعنی من وقتی نامه اعمالم داده شد و هیچ هم توش کار خیر نیست، خدا دیگه بخشید، خب باید پرونده باید چیزی توش باشه. پرونده همینجوری لخت و خالی هیچی توش نیست. خدا میفرماید که هیچی نکردید، همین که اومدید پشیمان شدید، ندامت داشتید و توبه کردید، من خودم از طرف خودم پرش میکنم به حسنات. اینم دیگه کرم خدای متعال هستش. That the Almighty, He says that if someone had all this wrong that was done and it was unintentional, He will forgive. Says, not only will I forgive, I will replace everything that wasn't present in your action report. All those scars and marks that are there, when you delete this WhatsApp message from the other side, you get a scar. So He knows that there was something, but what it was we don't know. Now on the Day of Judgment also, these wrong that we had done will be deleted. It will be evident I did something, but what? It's not known. Allah says, even that scar, I will replace it to hasanat. Change it to hasanat so that people, they see it as something good that was done, which wasn't done by me. And that is the karam, the mercy of the merciful God. Says, La yahzunuhumul faza'ul akbar. That is, that faza'ul akbar, that will do them no harm. Ala inna awliya Allah la khawfun alayhim wa la hum yahzanun. So these ayat, they give us so much of hope that awliyaullah, friends of Allah, dostan khuda, awliya khuda, la khawfun alayhim, and heech khawfi nadaran, and they have nothing to worry. La khawfun alayhim wa la hum yahzanun, heech huzni ham nadaran. There is nothing for them to be in grief of. That is, the ingredients and the basic elements are the Ahlul Bayt and Quran. If we be with them, everything is safe ahead. And that is why we keep on repeating Ihdina Sirat al-Mustaqim, that Allah continuously guide us on the right path. So being on that right path. says فَاصْبِرْ صَبْرًا جَمِيلًا إِنَّهُمْ يَرَوْنَهُ بَعِيدًا وَنَرَاهُ قَرِيبًا. All these are the beautiful ayat that we have, and this إِنَّهُمْ يَرَوْنَهُ بَعِيدًا وَنَرَاهُ قَرِيبًا, we do have it in this dua ahad also. That is, people, they think that return of the Imam is too far away. إِنَّهُمْ يَرَوْنَهُ بَعِيدًا, they think it to be far, but we think it to be near. وَنَرَاهُ قَرِيبًا. So just like that, the day of judgment, it is near. Return of the Imam alayhi salam is also near, and that is that iman and the aqidah that mu'mineen, they have to have in the existence of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. Now regarding the mujrimeen and all that, we'll talk about them on a later occasion. As-salawat. صلی علی محمد و آل محمد و آل محمد. این روزهایی که درش هستیم روزهای اسارت هستش و اسرا هستن که دارن از طرف کربلا راه افتادن به سمت کوفه و از اونجا به شام و حوادث دردناکی در طول این مدت هم الان داره اتفاق میفته. دیروز عرض شد که وقتی ما میبینیم سیره حضرت آسیه را که زن فرعون بود، یا حضرت هاجر را که زن حضرت ابراهیم بود، مصائبی که اونا دیدن چیزی نبود. حضرت ابراهیم خانمش آورد گذاشت تو یک جایی که نه سبزه داشت نه آب، ولی یه خورده تلاش کرد، زحمت کشید، خسته شد، بچه هم پاشو کوبید به زمین، دیگه چشمه ظاهر شد. الان چند هزار سال است که اون آب زمزم اونجا هست، تشنگیش برطرف شد. و حضرت هاجر هم که دیگه دوید، چقدر دوید بین صفا و مروه. صفا و مروه اگر کسی این 7 شوطش رو میخواد بدوه، نیم ساعت تا 40 دقیقه بیشتر هم طول نمیکشه. ایشون دوید و آخرش هم دیگه مشکلش حل شد. ولی حضرت زینب سلام الله علیها اینطوری نیست. یعنی حضرت علی اصغر اینقدر تشنگی را گفت، آخرش هم شهید شد. این همه شهید دادن اونجا. حضرت زینب از کجا تا کجا، از حرم تا قتلگاه ایشون دویدن سراغ امام حسین. بعد از قتلگاه تا کوفه تا شام، اینا را با چه زجر و با ذلت اینا بردن. حیوان‌هایی هم که آماده کرده بودن طوری بود که اصلا هیچ روش محمل نبود. محمل یعنی وقتی میذارن روی اسب و شتر، یعنی احترام میخوان بذارن به طرف. اینجا محملی هم نگذاشتن، یعنی میخواستن اذیت کنن، که من اذیت بکنن. نشستن روی شتر، اگر نشسته باشید شما، اونم بدون محمل چقدر سخته. روی اسب هم نشستن بدون هیچ پتویی روی اون نمیشه نشست. وقتی هم که این حرکت میکنه استخوناش سابیده میشه به ما اذیت میشیم بیشتر. خب اینا را اینطوری بردن از کربلا تا کوفه، از کوفه تا شام. در خیلی از جاها طوری بود که اینا را بسته بودن، یعنی با تناب تو هم دیگه بسته بودن. یعنی اینایی که بزرگسال بودن و کوچکسال بودن همشون رو بسته بودن، طوری که حتی این خردسال‌های 3 ساله مثل حضرت رقیه و سکینه، اینا قدشون هم کوتاه بود، اینا همشون هم توی ریسمان بسته بودن. و اونایی که بزرگ قدشون بلند بود، اینا گردنشون کشیده میشد وقتی اونا را میرفتن. با یه همچین اذیتی اینا را بردن. The days that we are in, it's those days of horror of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, how they were taken from all these different destinations. Now Maqatil, they say that there were about 19 stops, 19 different stops where they had taken to. One of them, it's called the Qansirin. Now all this is until they reach Sham, the palace of Yazid La'natullah alayh. When they stop at this place, now it was mentioned yesterday, there were these 50 mal'oons who were carrying the trunk in which the head of Abu Abdullah and Hussein was placed. They used to drink around the trunk, and all the disrespect was there towards the head of Abu Abdullah, and all those visions that were seen by them, that the skies opening up and all the angels descending by the trunk and holding the head of Rasulullah and condoling Rasulullah, all of the prophets were seen. Now here they stop at this place called Qansirin, and that is by a chapel. Now the monk in the chapel, he says that all these people, they have got together around this trunk, and there is a light, a nur that ascends to the skies from that trunk. He says, I want to know what that is. What is that? Comes to these people and says that, what is it? That can I have that trunk? Can I have it in my chapel for tonight? I'll give you 10,000 dirhams, means 10,000 silver coins, only to have the trunk in my chapel for tonight. He goes and speaks to his team leader. He says, okay, take the money. Okay, you can have it until the morning in your place. Opens the trunk and sees it is a beautiful head of a person he doesn't know who he is. And then starts crying and says that, Ya Rab, bihaqq Isa ibn Maryam, by God, by Isa son of Maryam, this head I see, it is noble, no doubt in it. Says God, by Isa ibn Maryam, allow the head to speak to me, so that I can speak to him and see who he is. And then Allah gives that permission to the head to speak to that monk. And the monk, he says, the head said to me, Ana ibn Muhammadin al-Mustafa, I am the son of Muhammad Mustafa. Wa ana ibn Aliyin al-Murtada, I am the son of Ali Murtaza. Ana ibn Fatimat al-Zahra, I am the son of Fatimat al-Zahra. Ana al-Maqtul bi Karbala, I am the one who was killed in Karbala. Ana al-Madloom, Ana al-Atshan, I am that Mazloom, I am that oppressed, and I am that thirsty. Then he says, allow me to speak to this head again. And then says to the head, this Christian monk, says that I want you to be a shafi', intercede for me on the day of judgment, and I also be entered into the heaven. And then now the head speaks, Ishhad, and that is, if you return to the deen of my grandfather Muhammad, then I guarantee that I will be with you, I will intercede for you into the heaven. The monk, he holds the head of Abu Abdullah, says, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammad Rasulullah. Now then he comes, now it's time up, and he has to return the head to them. They say that, come on, give the head back. He says, I've inherited another 10,000 silver coins. If you allow me to keep the head until you leave, I'll give those 10,000 coins to you. He gets the permission from the team leader, and he allows the head to be with this person for a few more hours until they leave. Now here he is speaking to the head, says all the way and throughout the time this noble head of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein was in my chapel, I was speaking to that head and I wouldn't let that head go away from me. That is that mahabbat of Hussein ibn Ali alayhi salam, and it is all God given, that Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala bestows that love to who He wants, and we have to avail that in ourselves. Inna liqatl al-Husayn hararatun fi qulub al-mu'mineen, there is a heat in the hearts of mu'mineen, la tabrudu abada. Now in these days, this caravan is in Sham. Now Sham, it is one of the most painful the duration of the stay. Most of the horrors also that were seen were in Sham. The weathers, they are in extreme. During the day it's extremely hot, and those who've been to Sham, you witness that, I've witnessed that. During the day it's hot, and at night it's extremely cold. Sudden change of temperatures in those 24 hours. Now the ruins and the prisons also were such that there wasn't any roof on it. And the prisons and the ruins of Sham, they are next to this palace of Yazid Mal'un. And here Yazid, the palace is next to this ruins, and all of a sudden in those ruins there is a cry that rises. He says that, what is this cry? Yazid is informed that it is the daughter of Hussein ibn Ali. She wants her father. She is crying for her father. Yazid says, take the father to the child and give the father to the child. They bring the noble head of Abu Abdullah and Hussein alayhi salam and throw it into the laps of the daughter. Now the daughter, she is confronted with the head of Abu Abdullah and Hussein. Says that, Abata, man alladhi qata'a waridak, father, who severed the veins of your neck. Abata, man alladhi aytamani ala sighari sinni, father, who will look after me in this young age of mine that I have been orphaned. She sighs and she passes away in the lap, and the head of Abu Abdullah is in her lap. Now, due to these extreme circumstances of that weather, there are blisters in the skin because it's hot during the day, extremely cold during the night. Now here, the ghassala, that is the woman who washes the body, when Imam Sajjad gives the body to that lady to be washed, she comes to Imam and says that, was she afflicted with some kind of a skin disease? Says, why skin disease? Says, what are all these blisters on her skin? And why is this dress that she is wearing on her? It is stuck to the body. The reason why it was stuck to the body, that those mal'oons en route to Sham, they used to lash this child of Abu Abdullah, and also in that ambush that takes place on the day of Ashura, when her clothes were all burnt down. And in that ambush, this woman who was washing, she shouts and she says that, why are the ribs of this child crushed and broken? Why is the arm of this child fractured? So that is the same fate that her grandmother, Hazrat Fatima, had. This little toddler of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein also had a similar fate. Ilahi bihaqq al-Zahra wa abiha wa ba'liha wa baniha wa sirr al-mustawda'i fiha. Ya Allahu, Ya Allahu, Ya Allah. Ya Allahu, Ya Allahu, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, Ya Allah. Allahumma ahyina hayata Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad wa amitna mamata Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma arzuqna fid dunya ziyarata Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad wa fil akhirati shafa'ata Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. خدایا کسانی که درخواست دعا کردند، هر حاجتی، هر دعایی دارند را بپذیر و قبول فرما. خدایا مرزای اسلام را شفای عاجل و کامل مرحمت فرما. خدایا گذشتگان از این جمع را مغفرت و غریق رحمت فرما و بهترین جایگاه را نزد اهل بیت علیهم السلام به همشون مرحمت فرما. خدایا اولاد ما را نسلا بعد نسل از بهترین مسلمانان قرار بده. در ظهور آقا امام زمان تعجیل فرما. ما را جزو انصار و اعوان ایشون قرار بده. و عجل فی فرج مولانا صاحب الزمان ماتم حسین.